This you?
Was poppin'. Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to the live show. And I'm saying live show because I am trying to stream on two platforms, YouTube and Facebook. I feel confident, people. Bear with me if there's any issues, but I feel confident. We did this last time when Moose was gone, so I feel confident about this. If it doesn't work, I'm just gonna blame Moose because it was working last week. You know what I mean? It was working last week. I'm just letting you know. But anyways, first and foremost, please like, share, comment, that whole nine to this live stream. We appreciate you. Episode 106 dropped today. Right? So go check that out. The audio experience is out. The video experience will be dropping every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, Moose, how are we feeling?
Man, I'm feeling good. This is probably my favorite time of the year. The Yankees are in the playoffs. As you know, baseball is my first love. So, yeah, this is a good time for me, man.
I like it.
As long as they don't lose. Yeah.
Look at that. Facebook's working good. Facebook's working good. Shout out to our YouTube family as well. Moose, what we talking about today?
Oh, we're jumping right into it. I thought you were going to tell the people how you feeling and all that good stuff. But
I'm good.
Yeah, so so basically I am, of course, continuing to study the ins and outs of marketing and really just geeking out on all of that. But the one thing that I notice is super important, and I asked you kind of like a silly question sometime last week, but I talked about, man, how do you build relationships using social media? And the reason why I'm going here today is because I realized that a lot of us use social media incorrectly. And you can actually be a super creative person, have successful reach and maybe great engagement and all of these different metrics working in your favor. But when it comes to building meaningful relationships that truly help you to build, say, offline success where it really matters, I think a lot of us fall short in that because I don't know if it's a disconnect, say, between how we see the real world and we don't see the digital world with the same level of reality or realness, if you will. But it's definitely something that I think a lot of us can improve on. So I just want to start at a very fundamental level and, obviously go back and forth just about your take on how you've used social media to build relationships that probably originated online with people who you may have never met before or had any contact with. But there was something that probably happened that allowed you to start seeing some traction. And that relationship went on to maybe bring some fruit to something offline and, different business endeavors and things like that. So I just want to cover the basics around how do we build relationships using social media so that we can collaborate and build from there.
So I think majority of the people that I know, I've met online. Like, I think majority of the relationships, I could intelligently say that, majority of my relationships have been created online. Just worked out that way. I don't know. Maybe because I stay inside a lot and I'm my only child. I don't know. But there's different ways that at least I go about it. Of course, you start off with just the serving part. So my content is always going to build the credibility that I need, right, in order to show the proof in the pudding, right? I need my body of work. So when people do go to my profile, they see, oh, this is what she does. She knows this very well, and I can binge watch a good amount of hours on her profile to show that she knows what she's talking about, right? Now, if I notice somebody follows me or we connected at an event or whatever, I'll just hit them up, not needing anything, right? I think that's what a lot of people tend to do wrong, is that they go with the ask first. And I don't necessarily go by that. I just go, yo, love what you're doing. It was great to meet you. This, that, and the third. Let me know if you need anything, right? And 9 out of 10 times that creates conversation, based off what I do, because everybody needs help with content and branding and things like that. And we've built multiple relationships that, like, I've literally met them and I felt like I've been talking to them forever, right? But always leading with what they need first, giving them their flowers, especially understanding what they do and making them talk about themselves first is key, because no one cares about you. Sorry, I don't mean to hurt nobody's feelings. You're special, but when you're creating relationships, it's not about what you're doing. It's about the other person, right? It's funny because I was talking to somebody today, and they asked me, like, yo, what are you doing? Like, what's new with you? And I was like, oh, you're doing what I do. This is great. I like this, right? So leading with service, leading with flowers, and leaving it to the point where you can serve even further has helped me personally, building relationships on social media, making people feel like they're seen and not just another person in the comment section is one of those things that's helping as well.
Yeah. No, and I love the first one you said, right? Actually having a body of work there that they can binge on and enjoy, because it allows people to really get to know you on a deeper level. So you mentioned events, right? And sometimes it does happen in that order, where you might connect with someone offline at an event, and because you're at an event, there's really not a real opportunity to connect with someone on a very deep or intimate level, because there's a lot going on, everyone's moving. You don't have the time to sit there and tell somebody your whole business plan or life story, right? It's kind of just shake and go. But the follow-up that you just talked about, to be able to follow up with someone online with a simple message, not necessarily trying to jump and acquire them as a client or talk about how you want to collaborate with them or get on their platform or get them on your platform, but just a simple follow-up of, hey, great meeting you yesterday, or great seeing you yesterday. Strategically, yes, you want to stay in touch, but I also think it gives them an opportunity to start to see your body of work and get a better understanding of, okay, got it. So this was a really great person that I interacted with briefly at an event yesterday or earlier in the week, but now I get to almost see what they're about on a more deeper and intimate level. So it's one of the ways to really, I would say, build your pipeline, if you will, from a business standpoint, without having to aggressively reach out to cold audience or cold markets or force people to buy, because and you said it perfectly too, Nick, because you offer something that is so tangible and yet so needed by so many people, simply putting yourself on display for them, just so they can see the quality of work, the consistency of work. Eventually it catches up to you where they're like, okay, yep. Hey, can you, do you mind? And it's like, oh, absolutely, right? So I love that, man. And it's just to reiterate, for those of you looking to build relationships, wherever they start, don't jump for the kill right away. You know, I think sometimes we kind of lose sight of that, and we forget about the social part of social media. You know, like that word is there for a reason.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, we are connecting with people for a reason, right? It's not, 9 out of 10 times is not, oh, because you're such a great person. I just like you. I like your vibes. This is great, right? Some people, I do. I normally do, because I don't really need much from people. So I just really connect with people because I like what they do, right? But 9 out of 10 times, people are connecting for leverage of some sort, something tangible, whatnot, right? And there's always a long game to things. It's if you want a quick conversation and get straight to the point, get to it. You're not going to have a relationship. You're going to have a transaction. And that's fine too, right? Like for me, there was a situation to where, we're creating a relationship. It's cool, whatnot. But then there comes the hard ask, and you didn't create that much of a relationship with me to give you what you're asking for just yet in the way that you want it. Because I know 9 out of 10 times when you're trying to build that relationship, there's some type of leverage that you're wanting, whether it is like, okay, I know how much this person is, or I can guesstimate how much this person is for their services and things like that. If I create a strong bond and I created a mutual situation, right? This will work out in my favor. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't do that just yet. You didn't do that just yet. I see what you're doing, but you didn't do that just yet. You still gonna get this work. You know what I mean?
So what's the timing on that then? I mean, is it because I can't even imagine it's not a timing thing, right? Because you could know somebody for, say, 6 years, but you talk to them twice, and I don't know that there's that level of trust that's needed to say, okay, I'm in a good stance from a relationship standpoint to make the ask or make the offer or whatever it may be. What would you say are some of the signs that let you know, all right, I'm in a good standing with this person, or they're in a good standing with me, right? Just vice versa. Just for some of the introverts, maybe a selfish question as well. But how does that work?
I'm more on a consistency tip, like, and whatever your level of consistency is that, for a certain type of relationship, is that maybe a few times a month? Is that, once a week? For me, it's more several times a month. If you're trying to get, and let's be honest, if you're trying to get the free boy, you're going to have to talk to me nice. You're going to have to talk to me nice. There has to be some type of mutualism. And I feel like we're close enough that you have the audacity to ask me, hey, just come through. You know what I mean? Right. Just come through. What have you done for me lately? Janet Jackson vibes. Like, what are we talking about? You're cool, but there has to be some type of mutualism. And and this is the thing. They knew. They're like, yeah, okay, we got to figure something out that's mutual, right? And all respect, right? All respect, but there still has to be a level of connection that if I'm moving in the relationship leverage standpoint, because there's 2 ways you could create a dope relationship. You pay them their price, no questions asked. Oh, that's going to create a relationship. Oh, how can I help you? What's up? What are we doing? Right? Or you play the long game and create a relationship to then provide some type of service for them later. Very small, doesn't have to be your whole life, right? But something small to where they see that, this is not you just talking to me because you need something. And then, boom, it's a scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of situation, and we're good, right? Because that's what, friendship or really good relationships do. That's fine. But some of y'all asked too quickly or didn't create a strong enough relationship to where it's like, come on, dog. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
they'll hit you, and then they'll hit you with, you're worth this. I know, and I wouldn't give you anything less. However, no,
Comma.
there's no however, comma with this. There's none.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, man, because I'll just be honest in saying I have not had many relationships built through social media. I'll just be honest. Most of my relationships have happened first offline and might have transferred online, but none that just organically were built online and then grew from there, right? But the reason why I even brought this topic up was because I started to see that some of the more successful people who we see online, they leverage social media very strategically. And when I say strategically, I don't mean that the person has bad intentions or is ill-willed, because they have a formula for how they navigate these platforms, right? You got to understand there's a lot of, say, human connection things that don't exist online. I can't hear someone's voice unless, of course, they send me a voice note or I'm on the phone with them. I can't see the body language. I'm not making time out of the day to go meet with someone where it's mutually agreed upon. So there's a lot of factors from a human relational or connection standpoint that don't exist when you're talking about building relationships online. So unless you're someone who just naturally thrives with relationship, I can understand why it may feel difficult at first. But what I started to see is that there's just a few tactics, if done correctly, and they all come from a genuine place. Again, just because I'm using the word tactics or strategic, I'm not saying that they're ill-willed, but because we know the value of relationships, it should be high on your value ladder or on your level of importance to say, okay, I'm really going to be intentional about trying to build relationships online. I can't just rely on being at 1,000 events a month or a year to try and network with people. Utilizing the online space to build relationships is key. Now, here's what I found. Number one, social support. Just by showing support to somebody and showing that you appreciate their work, you're in tune with what they're doing, that alone gets people's attention because they see the consistency of your support, especially if it's something that they work so hard and dedicated their time to. It's always appreciated. The next thing, genuine curiosity. When you're genuinely curious about what someone has going on and you're asking questions not to, say, invade their privacy, but you're asking questions to maybe learn more. And I know this is something, we've talked about where people online often use questions as almost a measuring stick for what they should do more of. So if I'm reaching out to Nicky and I see that she posted about branding or content online, and I have a genuine curiosity around what she just did, right? My question can give her some insight as to what she can do more of. So although it may seem like a selfish thing because I'm hoping that you respond to my question, there is some value that Nicky gets from that as well. And then lastly, of course, the adding value piece, right? To be able to reach out and learn about what someone is trying to accomplish, and you contribute in some big or small way to what they're after, that's always appreciated. And that's the part that I'm learning probably works the most. It may take the most time, but it works the most. When someone sees that you are looking out for their well-being, you want to help them accomplish what they're after or get done what they're doing faster, they're like, yo, I want to keep this person in contact or at least in open communication because of their intention for me. So just some of the things that I've noticed ever since we had that dialogue last week, it's just, man, simple little gestures to be able to use the story, just responding to someone's story with like a little fire emoji. It's like, oh, that's all it took. Congrats. That's all it takes to build those relationships.
Yeah, we still have to remember it's social media.
That's right.
So you have to be social. You have to talk to people. You have to, and understanding this is going to be the tool that will be able for you to create relationships in other countries. let alone states, right? But other countries, right? And all we have to do is respond. All we have to do is reach out. All we have to do is follow up in order to create some really powerful relationships. I think we take that for granted. I think we're not utilizing as much as we should. And that is like, that's okay if you didn't do it before, but now what are we doing? Like, I'm making sure that I'm checking certain activity to see who follows me and recognize those people who do, right? Especially those who have some of a higher status, right, or a higher following count. I'm going to be intentional with reaching out. I'm going to be like, for example, we covered Mandy on our podcast this week, right? And if you checked it out, let us know. I heard the podcast. Say, I heard the podcast, right? And before we even went over it, I hit her up on the DMs because you got to give flowers. Like, I'm big on that. We don't give flowers enough. We just assume they know they're dope, right? And when I heard that clip that we went over, I was said, oh, fire. You've been talking about the podcasting game for a minute. I don't know if at least today someone gave you flowers on it, but at least today I'm going to do that, right? And just being intentional with reaching out and things like that. And by me reaching out, just saying, yo, I just appreciate what you're doing. Then they're like, yo, I've been meaning to hit you up. Of course you have. Of course you have. I got it. Like, once you get to a certain point, people are not following you for no reason. Especially if you are in more of the informational lane, right? They're not following you for no reason because you're super dope, even though you are, like I am in real life. But at the same time, I know why 99% of the people follow me, right? So with understanding that, when I reach out, I know it's probably they're going to be like, yo, how do you do this? Or, yo, when can we get on the phone? And this, that, and the third. What's up, Q? Shout out to Q. Shout out to Q. But I know what's happening with that. And even with, like, I gotta hit up Q randomly, and he knows this. Randomly, I'll just FaceTime my man. Why? Because I know he's a high flight attendant, so phone calls are cool, but FaceTimes are way better, right? So I'll hit him up being like, yo, you good? I don't want anything. And we get asked, just people in general, get asked to do stuff all the time. It's great for someone to just hit our DMs and just be like, yo, are you good? Like, didn't want anything, just wanted to say you're dope. It's very important to do that. Do that for some of your favorite accounts, right, that you follow. Some of your favorite influencers, some of your favorite creators. Do that. And you will see if they could reply, right? Because some DMs are crazy, right? My DMs are disgusting. I'm trying over here, but it's disgusting. But you'll be surprised and be like, oh, man, it's the little things that is appreciated because somebody is always asking for something. And so for you to stand out, just that little thing, by really not say, yo, I don't really want anything. I just wanted to say, you're dope, you're good, you need your flowers. That's it. It goes a long way.
Yeah. It's important, man. It's important. Shout out to everyone on the check-in, by the way. It's I guess the second time that we're on Facebook in a while. So shout out to you shout out to those of you who are checking in, man. Let us know where you're checking in from. We do this every Tuesday at 8:00 Eastern, by the way. So y'all make sure you check us out. We talk about all things business and branding. And of course, our podcast episode drops Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So y'all make sure to tune in with that as well. In my opinion, this episode was the best one. We're 106 in. But Nicky was a little surprised. She's like, the best one?
Right.
yeah, something about this one felt really, really good. So just make sure you check it out. Make sure you check out the podcast for sure.
Hey, I'm all for it. If you think it's the best one, who am I to disagree with this?
Come on.
Not going to disagree. I'm going.
Mastery.
I'm definitely going to allow data to be like, okay, right?
Let's talk about it. Yes.
Because why am I sounding like you? You
Right.
sound
No,
like
but that's why I
feelings,
like
and
that.
I'm
That's
like,
But that's why I
Yep.
like it. You said now we're gonna let the data talk. So I said
oh
no, I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. I got because I've been checking. Hold on, let me check while I'm here. I've been checking the charts. You know, I stay on pulse with that, right?
Okay.
And you know, we hit a few new ones. This is new.
Hey,
Like-
talk about it.
We're in Tunisia, okay? We were Sweden, okay? Grenada. I don't think we've ever said that one.
I don't think so either.
Yep, we're in Grenada. What's a new one? What's another new one? No, everything else is typical US, Great Britain, Sweden, Spain. Well, I said Sweden was new. Spain, Dominican Republic, Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Algeria, Bahamas, Gambia, which I still don't know where that is, Malawi, Swaziland. Yep. All these places. Shout out to Africa. It's probably Africa.
Showing love. Showing all types of
You know
love.
what I mean? Shout out to
love
Africa. We out here.
I love it. Hey, let me ask you this now, because, you know, I think the beautiful thing about building relationships is, of course, at some point we start to feel comfortable enough to make that ask. Okay, so I've been nurturing a relationship. It's been genuine all throughout, but I'm at a moment in time where I seriously need the help now. And I reach out to make that invitation, to ask my question, to make that offer, to go for whatever it is, right? How, as someone on the receiving end, are we going to say, navigate those dialogues to know what I can deliver or give just on the strength of the relationship? And when do I have to draw a line in the sand and say, look, at this point, I can't continue to just give, right? This is now almost going into more of like a client situation, or you're asking me to do work now. So this becomes a little bit of a different dialogue. And again, I'm just asking because that could be an uncomfortable conversation for some. We're accustomed to being friends, but now you're using the friend card to get me to do something business-wise, and that can cut into my time. So talk about, just navigating those conversations when you're on the receiving end, and then we'll talk about it vice versa when you're making the ask per se, and how's the best way to do that.
So it's all about boundaries. You shouldn't be giving out stuff that eventually you're going to charge. That's how I look at things, right? And I get it, because it's more of like a bait switch kind of thing. Like, if I do this, then eventually they're going to need this, and I could charge them, right? But then for me, and this is only for me, that gets uncomfortable. Like, I'm bad at drawing the line. So there's certain things that I will do that doesn't matter if I do for free for 19 different years. And then there's some that I won't do for free. And so why bother offering it for free? I'm not in that phase of I need to prove anything, right? And even if I was in that phase, I wouldn't go about it in a way of giving it for free just to create a relationship. I wouldn't do that, right? So when I'm starting out with these different relationships, there's one thing I can do. I could talk all day. No problem talking all day. I like it. FaceTime me all day if you want to. I'm here for it, right? As long as I could time manage and still do my work, we could talk all day, right? And I don't ever feel like at some point I have to charge for that. If I'm creating the relationship, right? Now, does what I say can gain people a whole lot of money? Absolutely. Absolutely, right? Can it change certain things that their stats could go all the way up? Absolutely. I know how much I geek out and how much I give, but why do I put a boundary on a specific person when I do that on social media for free all day anyways, right? So that's never the problem. It's giving out the products and services that cost you some type of money, right? Or you would charge a super premium off of, and you give that away for free with expectations. I was just having this conversation today that I don't ever, and this was probably about 3 years ago where I changed this up. I don't expect anything from anybody when I give something, right? Especially not from that person, because normally I see the fruits of my labor somewhere else in some way, shape, or form, right? So expectations that if I do this for you, or if I talk to you for this long, or if I do blah, 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 then I'm going to get something back from you. 9 out of 10 times, I don't necessarily get what I expect from that particular person, but it does come around somehow, some way. My only thing now is when I am creating a relationship or when I am doing something, I can only control what I learn from it, right? Because what I learn can grow into something super dope later down the line, right? So it's never about you returning the favor, whether it's time, money, whatever it is. I don't expect you ever to return the favor. I don't ever expect you to give me or meet me with the same energy. I expect me to learn something new in this conversation, in this dealing, in this transaction, whatever it is. I expect me to learn something in order to grow from each situation that I'm in. I don't even necessarily care if it's a 5-minute conversation. I don't care if we're going through passing and we're having some type of dialogue or anything. I have to learn something in order to grow in life, period. And that has kept me stress-free, right? Less disappointment, right? Because when you set expectations on somebody, it doesn't matter who it is, you are guaranteed disappointment. They're never going to meet your expectations. They're never. One, you're probably not vocalizing your expectations anyways. But 9 out of 10 times, they're never going to meet your expectations. So I can't have expectations on someone I don't have control on. I have expectations of myself. Did you learn something today? Did you waste your time on this particular situation? Then it's your fault. It's nobody else's fault. It's your fault. Every bad dealing is my fault because I've put myself in that position and I've expected it to go a different way. And man, this all goes based off the conversation I had earlier where we were having the conversation of, understanding that perceived value again, and why didn't people say something or do things differently when I was a certain following count, but now they see who I'm associated with. Now they're talking different. My man was like, well, when I used to think of that, my OG said I had expectations. And I said, I left the expectation game a long time ago. I just find it weird, right? It's just super, super weird. So there's no expectations. It's only, I'm going to grow from this. Regardless if you're going to help me grow or not, I'm going to grow from this.
Wow. Yeah, I had to let some time, just give that some time to digest. Wow. That's probably one of the biggest things that frustrates people, I gotta say, is, that part that you just spoke about right there, expectations. Setting expectations on someone else to do something for you based on how you value what you're doing could be worth to them, right? There's no facts or guarantee to say, hey, this is the value or the worth that I place on what you're doing, and it's reasonable for you to place these expectations on me, right, as the other person. So it's probably the biggest part for disappointment. And I'm like trying to think of a follow-up question for that, but I think you're right, because once you remove all expectations from other people, it gives you no other option but to count on yourself. Mm-hmm. And it almost builds this intentionality behind how you move every day, every way, in a sense, so that you get the greatest ROI. Because quite honestly, anytime you hope that someone else will get you the return that you feel you deserve, you probably almost always fall short.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I'm just being honest. I don't want to be disappointed no more. I just don't want it. It's heartbreaking. I'm a relationship person. Like, it's heartbreaking. So, but is it really their fault? No. It's not their fault. They're being them.
I would think that someone is being misleading.
I think they're just being them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, but I think the best thing, the way you said it is probably the best way, right? Because there's too many variables when you start to figure out, but wait, why is what they're doing not valid? Or here's why it's not valid. It's like, listen, and I think we said it once before, stop trying to treat people to be like you, or stop expecting you out of other people.
There's only one of you. There's only one of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like the more you expect you out of other people, the more you will be disappointed, because like you said, there's only one of you. You're not going to find that energy being reciprocated. And I mean, not ever, but not in the same way that you expect it exactly. So yeah, that's going to set a lot of people free, man. I think that's a great way. It gives you, just moving with that mentality, I think there's a level of ownership and responsibility that you start to take over your own life, rather than the hopes of, man, if I collaborate with this person, man, if she were to just say yes about doing this with me, this will set my career for life. It's like, what if that would never happen? And surprisingly, the minute you stop moving like that, I think that's when they do start to happen, right? It's like you actually start to see like, oh, wow, this is a bonus on top of what I would normally get, but sure, I'll take it. Right. Because it doesn't come with that expectation. But no, I think you're spot on. That disappointment piece is critical to stay consistent more than anything, because I think those disappointments get you out of the game. It's like, you know what? It's not worth me trying. I'm not even going to do this anymore. Then you give up on something that you know is effective and probably in the best interest of your business and for yourself as well, because of something like that. So yeah, managing relationships is important, y'all. Managing relationships is important.
These are facts.
Yeah. The flip side that I've seen, though, that I think is actually really good, and this is something that we can control too. It's not even on them. But I think a lot of times when brands and, of course, people who are in business don't have a clear line between what is free and what is paid, that always creates that level of disappointment as well, right? I noticed that, especially because for a lot of, say, creative entrepreneurs or service providers, there's not a physical exchange that happens. And so it's easy to lose sight of, where does your work officially begin? Where does your process or your system officially begin? And so you can give and give and give and give. And by all means, like we talked about, it's up to you how much you want to give. But when you talk about why you may feel sometimes mistreated, misused, or undervalued, I'm telling you right now, it's probably because you don't have a clear line in the sand of when does your quote unquote consultation end and when does your work officially begin. So just a couple of weeks ago, we were actually on the phone with someone who we were seeking out their advice, right? Their professional opinion. And I can see the professionalism in drawing that line in the sand and very politely the response was, hey, thank you for asking me to help with this, but I just want to let you know how my process works. And it was that, just that one sentence alone made it very clear that I'm happy to help with this, but I want to let you know that you're now going into paid territory, right? And just draw a nice line in the sand, because I'm telling, for service providers especially, and people who just use their knowledge and experience as their main source of income, if you don't start creating that separation, you're going to get beat a lot more times than not. And that sentence right there made it very clear for us to say, okay, cool, we understand. Tell us about that process.
Right.
And it was just a lesson for me. And granted, I was on the receiving end. I was a part of the dialogue. And I understood that, you know what, this is someone who's very clear on what is a quote unquote free consultation and what is actual paid work. And he has a method for doing so. So it just reminds me, like, man, when you don't have that level of clarity on when your work begins, you can't be mad at people for, say, overstepping that boundary, because they probably didn't even know. They were just navigating the dialogue based on the energy that you gave off. So just having that clear insight there to let people know, no, at this point, you know, we're going in a different direction. I think that's one of the easiest ways to make it very clear, like, nah, that's not how it's going to work here.
Yeah, y'all need to write that statement. I just want to let you know my process.
Right.
That was.
That was great. Hats off to him. I was like, he said his exact words were, no, I appreciate you asking me to help, but I just want to let you know how my process works. I was like, got it. Understood. Clear. No problem. Tell us about your process.
Tell us about it. Tell us all about it.
Tell us about your process. Yeah, listen, tell us.
I'm all for that. I think those kind of sentences, if we have maybe 2 or 3 under our belt, would definitely help. Mine's a little bit more blunt. He was smooth with that one, right? But if we can have 2 or 3 that we kind of go through rotation on and we feel comfortable with, I think that would help a lot, because I know it's hard to cut off that, to kind of create that line, right? It's very hard. There's one situation I still have till this day that is like, it's just hard to be like, come on now, you know that's a charge, right? But it is what it is. I have one, so I know to never do it again, right? And it's like, for me, I always have to learn the hard way. I don't know about everybody else. I always have to learn the hard way. I normally, if I'm at a certain level or I'm saying certain things, it's probably because I got burned about 3 times, right? Not even one. One, I'm like, oh, it's okay. 2 is like, oh, it's all my fault. Then you get the guilt part about you, right? And then it's like the third one, it's like, all right, it really is me. It's really my fault
here.
Yeah,
right.
It's really, why am I doing this? This is crazy, right? And there's certain things, and I've admitted this, publicly, and it's something that I'm not trying to fix, right? Where I will give people the benefit of the doubt, because there's going to be somebody who deserves that. And I don't want to take that away because of some of my bad experience in the past, right? I believe the past is the past, and it teaches you very well to maneuver, but to have certain guards up for people who didn't even show you that your guard needed to be up at all, right? I feel like that's wrong, right? I feel now, from a business standpoint where there's no feelings, right? That doesn't really apply, right? So that's a whole different world. that I had to learn in a very hard way as well. But when it comes to relationships, in which we're talking about, I will put my guard down before coming in, putting my guard up, because it just, and being super blunt, it just screams hurt female, right? Hurt human being. Oh, you were hurt. Like something happened to you that you have trust issues. Something happened to you that you don't see this clearly. Something happened, like, and some may have happened to me, but it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your character, how you maneuver. It doesn't, right? Now show me. Now I am like, if you show me some, like a little snippet, oh, it's a wrap. We're done. I'm exaggerating. This person is the worst, right? Horrible, right? No. I'm that. Don't mess up now. I don't need you to mess up after I don't come to you with guard up, right? So that's something I'm not trying to fix, even though I've been told 17 million times, Nicky, you trust too quickly. You do this, you do that. I just have now people in place to where I don't have to worry about that. Like I have people in place to where if it doesn't come to me unless it's in good manners and means in a very pure way from a relationship standpoint, right? And that's because people who are close to me know, oh, Nicky is like, hey, I love you. We're great. How are you? I'm great. Because, 9 out of 10 times, everybody loves me, right? And those people who don't like me don't even say anything in a whisper, because it's weird to not like me, because it's like, hey, I like everybody, right? Until you give me a reason not to like you. And then,
yeah.
Now, there are certain relationships that, because of the environments I was having this conversation with Tiff of like, when you roll with people and they don't like people, then you tend to like not like the person either. And then you question it later. Like, yo, why didn't we like this person? Mm-hmm. Like, why didn't, like I had this conversation with him. Like, yo, did you ever find out why we don't like this person? No, I don't know why we don't like hilarious. This person.
I can't believe you just said that. Do you remember why we stopped not liking this person?
Like, do you know why we don't really rock with this person? I'm like, no, I really don't. And I feel like there is a barrier, but I'm breaking the barrier because I can't really remember, right? But that's another thing of like who you surround yourself and who they don't like sometimes becomes the people you don't like. You have to be very cautious about, very, very cautious about that. Because it's like, I really don't have no reason not to like you. Like, I don't. Like, personally. Like, what I heard or what I've seen you do over there, yeah, that's kind of shady, cool, right? But personally, I don't have no problems with you. Why am I not liking you? Why am I, what are we doing? Okay, I like you today.
I like you today. Yeah, that's funny. That is hilarious. Like, I don't know why I stopped liking you, but I like you today. It works.
Right.
Let's be friends.
Because it's like, it's not fair. It's not, I can probably say 3 people off the top of my head. I'm not naming no names, but I can think of 3 people off the top of my head that I'm like, oh, we don't like them. Mm-hmm. But why?
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's definitely that guilty by association thing that happens, and specifically when we talk about relationships, specifically for social media, there's that perception that happens, or which another way to say it is assumptions that you end up making about other people based on what parts they allow you to see. Mm-hmm. And so just remember that regardless of what's happening, you want to be mindful not to judge. And I always go back to the example that or I should say the mistake that I made on one of our episodes when we covered Virgil, and he sold Off-White.
Oh, I remember
And
that.
yeah, and I just very quickly came out like, oh man, no, I disagree. I can't believe he would sell because, we're talking about all ownership, blah, 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 blah. And then sure enough, I think a month or two later, you get the news and it's like, whoa, buddy, relax. You don't know these people. And even if you do, you only know what they allow you to see. And so you can't go on taking these definitive, facts or making up these definitive things about what they are, or what they should and shouldn't do just off of the little that they allow you to see. And so, and I know this especially to be true because I'm like that. There's very little that I allow people to see publicly. And it would suck that people would make some, assumptions about who I am and who I'm not based on the little that I allow them to see without seeing the whole picture. So it was just a reminder like, dude, don't ever make such a strong assumption towards someone when you don't know their whole life. You got to take into consideration the full picture or the full spectrum. So only talk on what you know or what you at least know to be true, I should say. So yeah, be careful of the guilty by association and perception stuff from social.
Listen. That's so big. That's so big. I promise you. I've gotten better the past couple of months. I'm like, I don't know why I don't like these people, but
Me too. Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm thinking about this whole thing differently. It's like, I need a relationship 101 class for how to navigate, talking to people online. Like it's very important and I'm taking it very seriously. But real quick before we close, man, and again, shout out to everyone who's still tuning in with us. We appreciate you watching. It's been fun. I hope you got some value from this. Share this with a couple of people. Let us know, some of your takeaways and maybe even some questions, and we'll, I'm sure at some point get to them. But last thing I want to talk to you about now is actually converting these relationships to potential clients. Now, I'm curious to know your standpoint. This is actually something that I have just literally today in the process of doing. So I'm almost like making this transition in real time, if you will, because I realized one of the mistakes that I was making as it relates to that. But I'm curious to know your process real quick in just transitioning some of these relationships, whether actively or better yet, directly or indirectly, transitioning the relationships and or the audience at large, going from just bystanders or people who are, oh, cool, yeah, Nicky is this person that does that really cool thing every day, to now being super intentional in getting them to go down the avenue of looking at your product, buying your service, enrolling into a program, right? Because again, we want to leverage social media appropriately, and this is definitely a big part of it as well. So just talk about your process for it, whether done directly or indirectly.
I think it's more indirectly for me, where it's understanding the customer journey and understanding meeting people where they are. So more from a standpoint of like, what am I offering for the free? What is a low standpoint that they could take a quick little step into trusting me a little bit more, maybe off social media, right? Or maybe even on social media, because there's some features that will allow you to purchase, whether it is merchandise, whether it's subscriptions, badges, stars, super stickers, whatever it is, that low entry situation to where, getting them higher and higher and higher, right? But am I meeting them where they are? Am I meeting them as the curious people that they are? What am I giving them for the curious people? For those people who have been there wanting a little bit more, am I nurturing them? And then how am I being intentional with taking the nurtured ones and converting them off social media, converting them to a deeper relationship that they feel valued about, they feel safe about, right? And that they have some extra access to me and the squad that I have. So it's always about a customer journey, not necessarily like, okay, in 2-3 calls, then we're talking about this and we're converting in that. Mine's is more of an indirect of, what are we going, what level are you on? This is where I can meet you based off your level. And I do that even with my link to bio and on Instagram. It literally takes you through a journey of like, hey, how can I help you? You choose your option. Okay, what level are you on? And I'm actually about to rewrite that and re-record some of it based off some of the different things that are coming up where people want to like book me on podcasts and book me to speak and things like that. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Let's create a journey depending on what are you coming here for? And this is where you need to understand the different levels where people, what are 3 to 4 things people always come to you for? Are you providing that for them? Or is it very hard to find for you? Like you have to go through hoops and bounds to try to find this out. And for me, I don't necessarily have the traditional website. I literally have a service that will walk you through a video experience, right? And so what does that look like for you when you do create the relationship of a follower, and how do you make them into a loyal fan, a loyal supporter? And that's how I think about those types of relationships.
Yeah. And that's valid, man. I like that you shared that too, because I think a lot of times people think that selling has to be super direct and very aggressive or very pushy. And truth be told, it doesn't have to be. I think you definitely do a phenomenal job of that, just allowing people options to see what's available, and they can kind of jump on whatever station or whatever stop feels right to them, and then they can continue along the journey, which is a great way to do it. I know for me, one of the things, and I kind of applied half of this, but the other half is the adjustment that I'm doing in real time, which I mentioned earlier. And I noticed that my style, it's what I call selling to a closed list, meaning that you're actively pushing and actively showcasing your work and your capability or your capacity and what you're involved in, but there isn't a direct means for people to transact with you. So you're building that urge and that curiosity, but you don't really satisfy that urge. So I just simply call it selling to a closed list. But the way that I feel the second thing that completes that, and this is me learning it as I go, is that you got to give people an opportunity to interact with you directly, whether that be in something as simple as an email list, and you can kind of continue the dialogue directly there, or something like the text group that you have, Nix. So that, I believe, is probably the missing element to the cycle, because people can now go from, okay, I'm curious to learn more, tell me what it's like. And this I think works best, especially for service providers who don't want to do high volume. So if you're not someone who's super interested in just like having a gazillion people go through what you're involved in on a day-to-day basis, you know that what you offer can really only be available to a select number of people. You might be picky like me, or you might just know that the way it functions can only function for a limited number of people, and that's fair too. Just give them the opportunity to complete that cycle and have direct lines of communication with you. Because again, banking on them to stick around with never having some form of completion to, let's say, that urge that you create by every time you showcase your work, some people eventually are gonna be like, man, screw this guy. Like he's just going to continue to tease me with this amazing stuff, but I can't really ever get access to it. Right. So close the loop by allowing them to get direct access to you specifically offline. From there, it's a very similar process to what Nick is talking about, a simple nurture sequence that eventually will allow them to opt into whatever feels right. So yeah, that's that piece that I'm, kind of picking up on in real time, that I think makes the sales process a little less salesy, if you will, because I know a lot of us don't want to look salesy online for sure.
I like that. So if you got any type of value there, why can't I talk today? Any type of value today, whether you're watching this live or watching this on the replay, drop your favorite emoji. All right. Let's talk in emojis today. Drop your favorite emojis, whether you're watching this on YouTube, watching this on Facebook, watching this live replay, whatever it is. If this added any kind of value to you, drop your favorite emoji. Let us know you're here and you're present. Of course, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're dropping the full episode. Tomorrow will be episode 106. But depending on when you're watching this, if you're watching this replay, something is going to drop on Wednesday. Whatever you're at, something's going to drop on Wednesday. And that's it. That's all we got. I see the emojis coming in. You feel me? I see them. Oh, look, we got dollar signs. You feel me? We got the bag. You know what I mean? But appreciate the convo, Moose, as always.
Likewise. Thank you. Yeah.
And you know what we're going to say?
Peace, y'all.
Ah.